Alright, long time no video. So I've been busy last couple months, started my own business. It's been good, been hard, very tired, you know. So in the meantime, I sold my Honda Element. That was my kind of my daily. I don't have a commute. I have, I was driving all the time. I got into an accident. They did a terrible job fixing it. I didn't want to deal with it no more. Decided to get rid of it. That was kind of my winter beater originally, and I grew to like it. So I'm looking and looking and looking for a car, and I really don't want to spend too much money. And I look in my backyard, and I found this Crown Vic. So I bought it at auction, paid a little too much for it. It's clean, it's nice, but I'm trying to make a winter beater daily thing out of it. So let me show you what I got going on. The 97 Crown Vic, 90,000 miles on it. It's been sitting outside for over a year. I bought it at auction. The fender over there was hit. I kind of fixed it. Half-ass shitty. Like, car's kind of mint, kind of solid for what it is. All this shit'll clean up with just moss and shit. I've literally have not touched this car in a year. And I've had it almost 2, and I've done nothing with it besides throw a fender on it. So that's all right. I threw a battery in it a while back. It's still good. Car starts every time. My friend had a derby car, demo derby car from a couple years ago. I took the airbox off of it. Had a bad mass airflow sensor just from sitting. So I wanted to lift this up and put it on some big wheels. So I got the stock tires outside. This was kind of a project, spur of the moment. I just didn't know what was going on. I originally tried buying 30-inch tall, 9.5 wide tires on a 50-inch rim. I was going to put them on the stock rims outside. Stock rims are 6.5. I thought I can get away with it. Those tires sold. I couldn't find another set. Well, then I did, and then they sold immediately. So what I did was I bought these 31 10.5 wide on a 15-inch diameter. Bought the tires. The next day I bought these rims. So I bought the tires for $250 or something like that. Wheels were $60. Mounted them on the floor right here with a couple of pry bars and some soap, and I threw them on. They fit pretty good. Car sits a little bit taller. The rear will rub if you mob it over a big jump, like a big hilly road. It will rub from compression because the car is a little bouncy. Maybe it's not too bouncy, but it rides like a fucking like a boat. So I got some stuff to fix that. The front, I ended up doing, took the angle grinder and the Sawzall. All of 30 seconds, the car's able to turn, drive down the road. It hardly rubs. It will rub in reverse on the inside. And you're like backing out of a driveway type situation. So, tape measure's out here. I measured the inside part here. The inside lip sits kind of down, so it's 30.5 to the inside here, down to the ground, center to center. Same on the rear. You can notice it more back here. See how the lip is kind of sticking down? So they're 30.5 inches from the ground to there. I bought some coil spacers. These aren't, because it's an older style Vic, it's got to use something like this. I don't even know if they're correct yet. That's why I'm going to start with the front. It says 3-inch lift, but this is not 3 inches even total. It's like 2.5 if you measure from there to there. These will be 3 inches. I'm assuming this sits inside the spring there, and then this sits on top of the rear, or some situation like that. Don't know if these are correct yet. Hub-centric wheel spacers. Don't know if I even need them. They were cheap enough. We got O2 F-150 rear shocks, and you just got to drill the tabs out apparently, and they'll flop right in there. So we'll show you that along the way. I'm going to start with the front, do the hard stuff, and the rest comes easy. They say to put Ford Expedition springs in the back, so if those things don't work, I'll get Expedition springs, but cheap. Started jacking it up, and the tire's just hanging off the ground. If you measure from there to there, it's 36 inches. It's kind of how tall I'd like it to sit, but we'll see how tall it actually goes. Okay, wheel spacer came with these nuts here. I think they're correct. They go down pretty far. And that's as far as really they go by hand. Drop the nuts. And then this, there's really no play in it. I'm trying to rock it side to side. And then this here is a little loose around the wheel. Aftermarket wheels like that, the hub's always bigger, especially because that was probably built for a Jeep or something. So what we gotta do here is there's a shock bolt there. Try and get the shock out through the bottom. Remove this. Separate the ball joint, or unbolt it from up top. Whatever seems easier, and then hopefully that sway bar end link gets out of there. Okay, so what you want to do is take the top ball joint bolt out, the sway bar bolt, the shock. I ended up cutting the top of it because I couldn't get it loose. It's very old. You can never really reuse them, and I think it's going to be too short. And then you got to get the car up high enough. Make sure you have a jack underneath this and just let it down slowly, and then that hit the ground. So then I had to jack it up a little bit more, just get a little bit more leverage. So basically, this is the bottom of the spring. This is going to sit in there like that. I believe this was on top of the spring. It keeps the noise down. I think I'm going to try to reuse it. I'm going to try and compress this spring as much as I can. Make sure I could still get these off once it's in there. Try to reassemble it. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So the spring, that cup that sits on there, there's spikes on top of the frame. Kind of look like fingers almost, metal pieces. And the cup goes around them. So basically I have two jacks. I had this one underneath where the shock is supposed to go, and that wasn't enough leverage, so I have this one trying to push up on the ball joint. Basically, I recommend getting an internal spring compressor, because I have these spring compressors and I had to cut them because the ends that come out of here were sticking into the control arm. There's a pocket where the spring sits in there. So it just was not working out. I was going to put them on the inside, but the hole where the shock slides in and out of, there's no way to slide them in and out. So I'm just going to keep jacking up on this and maybe have to get a ratchet strap and the control arms together and try and push it together and then bolt it together, and then we'll put it back together. Okay, so what's working the best is I got this slightly pushed into the hole, and when I was jacking up on the end here, this control arm was starting to rise up. So I lined it up as straight as I could, and I just got a couple more whacks, and I'm gonna slide the bolt back in there and see how she goes. Okay, the bolt that goes here, I broke it. I found a metric bolt that works pretty good. It's an 8.8 bolt, and that's tight. This was spinning, so I had to vice grip the backside of the sway bar and link, rip it on there. I could tell already that it's down a little bit lower. Don't know how much yet. We will measure it. But I did cut the shock, but I'm going to try and toss it in there and see if the length is right. If not, I'm going to try and find one that's slightly bigger. Okay, so I have the shock in there, and when I push up on it, it will be at the top here, and the bottom has maybe that much room of travel, but this is all the way drooped right now. There's nothing underneath there. So I think I can just get another new shock for this car, and we'll go with that. That's I think you just use the factory shock, but you can never get the nut off of there, so you're better off with new ones anyway. Especially the car rode real squishy and stuff like that, so a new shock would definitely benefit you. Okay, so I left the wheel spacer out right now because you have to take the wheel off, retorque it and stuff like that after driving it for a while. The car still needs to go in for an enhanced inspection. If the wheel's out past the fender right now, it will fail in this state. So I haven't let it down yet, so. Okay, there's no pressure on that jack. Let me measure that. Okay, I don't have a tripod, but I measured that. That's 33. So that was 30.5. So that's 2.5 inch lift. Dang, that looks pretty good. Now we gotta do the other side and bolt the backs. Okay, I gotta do this side. I did the other side, and I learned a couple things and I'll show you along the way. So this is the new O2 F-150 4x4 rear shock. This hole is way too small for what's on the car. Supposedly this was supposed to be too big. I guess for the newer Crown Vics it is, but this is, I guess, pre-2003. I have this bolt, I think it's a 3/4 inch, and I have it in here, and I'm just hammering out this metal sleeve. I'll show, do I have one? I'll show you along the way, but that, and then I take a screwdriver and picking out the rubber. That's this. If you pull out the metal sleeve, you could probably drill this and make it work, but what I'm doing is this eyelet is the same size as the factory shock. So I take the old rubber out of the old shock, shove it in the new shock, and that's that. It's got a longer travel. And everything moves a little better with heat. It's working. Yeah. Okay, so that is that sleeve. That's just got to come out of there. You can see now that that came out, that wants to come out. So we'll just work with that. Got a whole mess of garbage. Okay. Those would be nice to save for something. I don't know what. So I'll just keep that there until I get the other shock out. Ugh. What a friggin' mess. Okay, I just gotta get the tools and everything on that side. I didn't have shocks in there, and I was just gonna get replacement stock ones. But we were playing at the parts store on the computer. These ones here are for this car, but for a P71 or police interceptor. And this is their part number. And they have about 1 inch longer throw in there, so that's what we're gonna run. We're gonna throw that on there in the front. When I think for some reason when I pushed the pads in the caliper, because I take the caliper off, I popped a brake line on that side. I bought a couple things for that to fix it. It broke right in the middle. The line's clean there and the line's clean there, so I'm just gonna connect it and redo it. But right here I got the spring in there, the cup. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna weld that cup to the axle and the spring to the cup. Shocks in there. You gotta be a contortionist to get that top bolt tight, but it's doable. I did it. Okay, wheels off. We took the lower shock bolt out and pushed the shock off of there, lowered the jack, brought the rear down. I was able to take a pry bar, because there's no tension on it, and you kind of just pick the spring off of this fucking thing, this perch, and then I got the shock started. It's mostly loose, so you grab the top part here, and I got this really long wrench on the top, and what I'm going to do is you could squeeze that and then try and do the wrench, but there's not enough swing with the wrench. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these grippers. I'm going to grab the hell out of this thing. I'm going to hold the wrench stationary or prop it up against the body, and then just ratchet that, because that is a ratcheting wrench. So this is the tool. It's a snap-on. That thing's a lifesaver. This is going to be my tool time section.
You know what time it is? Hi, Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
Yep, tool time. So, lifesaver. I have that. Guys who work in shops and stuff like that have these, they know that they're lifesavers. And they are. So that's the schmedium. And this is the baby. This one I don't think I've ever used. But if you do need to grab onto something, it is like a vice grips better brother with a lock. So it grips and you could just leverage right on things. Pretty awesome. So we have this thing all shrunk down. So when I tighten it down so much, you can see this is taller. And that is why I had to cut it. If I put it here, it's a little too wrong. So we're gonna try and shove it all in there. I'm not gonna film that because it's gonna be the struggle bus. Okay. We had the old shock out. The first little bit was easy, and then this part here was rusty as shit. I really wish I had a long enough sawzall blade to take care of that. You need a blade like that. But I'll show you the tool for that. So, take this fucking screwdriver. We got a bushing. Then, see you later. Brand new F-150 shock that we just took the shit out of. You can clean that, you spit on it. We're gonna go and dry. Because that's how she likes it. Look at that shit. It's really that easy. Look at that. Alright. It's over here. Oh, wait a second. Got all the fancy bits. Okay, 2 bushings. That one's fatter. Goes on the bottom. Two of these things. Fatter one. Oh no, I did it wrong. Listen to me. Washer first. Fat one on the bottom. Fat thing here. On the bottom. When you're going to install it, this one goes down like that. Cupped side goes up. Goes like that. That's from another thing. They gave us 2 nuts. You only need one of them. Usually one of them fucked up or junk or the wrong size. Yep, don't like that one. Don't like that one either. So, the reason this one was out is because I had it in stock and it works better. Look at that shit. Works better than what came with it. It also comes with these sleeves. I don't know what that's for. Put in there maybe. Don't know. Don't need it. It probably does go in there. But we're putting it back to how it was with the factory shit. So it's like that. All these tools are not needed no more. Set those over there. Be cleaned up. Now, just the fun part. Alright, we have the spring here. This is the bottom. Let me grab this fucker. That's got to go in there. So basically, this pried out of there with a little bit of force. So to get that to fit in there nice, this whole thing needs the spring, because this is 3 inches-ish. To get it to go in there nice, we need to compress it about 4 inches, 3.5 inches. So you're gonna need a couple sets of spring compressors. I got these ones. I had to custom them for the front. You're gonna want internal ones for the front. I think I mentioned that, but they would be longer. I had to cut them, so they're kind of fucked up. So I have another set coming, but to do it this way and all shitty like without the proper tools, I would recommend putting the nuts on the bottom. And how are we gonna do this? Just like that. You want to kind of in the middle. If you never used these things before, you see, as I go, this thing is coming up. That will bottom out into the control arm of the car or whatever you got going on. This thing here, if you put it in wrong, you start getting compression or tension on there. This thing will do the opposite and you won't be able to get a wrench on there. So you just got to be watching what you're doing. So I'm going to shrink that down. You probably should do it by hand. I'm not. I'm just going to use the impact gun and try and toss it in there. And then once it's in there, you try and get this sit level and even. And if you start doing one side more than the other, whatever you're using will bind in there. So if you're using a ratcheting wrench and it doesn't have a flipper, like to switch directions, you can go too far and that wrench will get stuck in there. So you need to have something that either has a switch, so when it gets stuck you can go back, or use the open end, or use a regular box wrench. When it gets stuck you can go back, take the wrench out, use the open end, because it will get stuck. Okay, cups in, springs in, shock, the bolts tight on the bottom, cut the band, shove it up through the hole, the shock goes up, you throw the nut on there, tighten it up, car's lifted. So now I'm going to throw the shocks on the front. They go in through the bottom through the spring perch. Throw the 2 bolts on, cut the band, comes to the top, tighten the bolt. If you can't do that, you're watching the wrong video. It's the simplest thing you can do. Same style as the other ones. Bolts on the bottom. I showed you what to do with the washers and the bushings. I'm going to throw those on the front, fix the brake line, wait in the morning, hopefully I have someone help me bleed the brakes, and we'll do our measurements and maybe take it for a drive. Since it is up, I did notice you're going to need an alignment, obviously. Both front wheels towed out, so the front of the tires just went like this. Both sides ever so slightly. The steering wheel is straight. I don't know if you could tell. It looks bad right there, but that will kill your tires, so get an alignment. Wheels back on there. Brakes are bled. I did not weld the spring purchase on there. That's going to be a later project. I'll insert a picture here, but this is touching. I sawzawed just a little bit in there. I'm going to clearance it more and then maybe weld or clean it up or put some seam sealer in there. The back was, I have the measurements here, 30.5. Now it's 34 inches in there, and then this was about a 2.5 inch lift in the front. 2.5 to 3 inches, so that's at 33. So she's kind of big. We're gonna get her outside, drive it, take it for a spin. I have to get it aligned, inspected. Wheel spacers are gonna go on, and maybe weld those coils on there. We're gonna see how they act. Police interceptor shocks are in the front. I think I showed that. Those are straightforward. They install the same way, and then I showed that. So we're gonna put it outside and take a look at it. Well, here's the car. I just took it home to pressure wash it, and the lift was a little bit harder to install than I thought it was. I had to cut back here. I recommend, you can see the wheel's not centered. I'd recommend getting longer or adjustable trailing arms. They sell those. They're a little pricey. That might be something I do in the future. Turning into this spot here, it did rub something in the front. I'm guessing the inner fender, but we'll see once I put the spacers on the front, and then we'll trim from there and do what we have to. I was thinking about doing a body lift. Maybe we'll get into that. The sun's really blocking the vision here. It's pretty big. I was driving and I was next to an SUV at the light, and I was the same height of it. More ground clearance though. You can see it's taller in the back than it is the front. It just looks massive from the rear. Well, I'll show you the inside. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this car. I just pressure washed it, but it's got these black, looks like paint, but it's not. It just needs like a clay bar on there. But the car is pretty clean overall, and it's locked, of course. Interior is mint. I made a video earlier on this car. I fixed it about a year ago. Put a fender on it, header panel, headlight, bumper cover. These cars weren't kept very nice by a lot of people, so it was pretty hard to find a matching color and even the parts for this body style at the junkyard. And I have a really big U-Pull yard near us. Door's got a crease in there, so the fender gap's a little but it is what it is. Car's cheap. It's got 90,000 miles. The car drives pretty smooth here. It's still really floaty. It drives like a land yacht yet. I thought putting the lift kit in there would have like firmed it up a little bit. Don't think anything's loose in the front end. I think it just maybe needs a bigger sway bar or something like that. Getting a line might help too. The toe out might make the car want to wander. It's a little darty, but that and the tire tires are gonna wear out. So we're gonna take care of that. I got some other videos planned of off-roading it and different things like that. It has to go for an enhanced inspection. But other than that, we're gonna post about it later on. But until then, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks.